Well, the best part of a bottle of red after an hour's sleep, and I'm probably going to regret saying most of this, but fuck it, here goes. A little while back, I brought a knife. It was right after some terrorist attack in Europe, Paris I think, but it's hard to keep track. I'd lost my shit a little reading the news and reasoned that with the police and security services unable to be everywhere at once, it falls on the individual to protect themselves and any attractive women in the vicinity. It's illegal in the UK to carry a knife in public unless it's one with a folding blade 3 inches long or less, 7.5 centimeters or so. Just putting this out there, most states in the US have open carry. Meaning you can openly carry a firearm in public. In the UK, we're allowed rape alarms. Surely there's some middle ground here. Anyway, considering how these cowardly fucks are at most glimpsed by their victims, if at all, I agree that it's funny to imagine me creeping up behind an armed terrorist and stabbing him in the neck, saving the fucking day. Much more likely an outcome would be either he'd look at my blade and die laughing, or I'd piss him off and get more people killed. With all that in mind, following the next attack, I felt it better to make a public statement then rather than wait. So that's when I brought the t-shirt with infidel written in both English and Arabic. Edgy, right? to poke fun at Islamic extremism. Levity in the face of adversity, a nervous laugh printed on 100% cotton. The first time I wore it out, I bumped into a woman wearing a hijab. She was walking with a family through this narrow corridor in the museum. I felt fucking awful, like a real piece of shit. I felt inflammatory, like I'd spat at them, like I was inciting tension. And I spent the rest of my visit to that museum dreading bumping into them again. Now tell me, is that lacking the courage of my convictions, or is it just not wanting to be a cunt? I don't know. When I got outside, due to how it was written below the English and the way my jacket hung, only the Arabic was really visible. Now I'm paranoid, I get that. I don't speak Arabic, but I do look a bit dark, as people never tire of reminding me. And I realise this is as much projection as anything, but that word could have meant anything, couldn't it? And I'll let you use your own imagination as to what. The next time I wore that incendiary rag, I was going into work to double down on some things I'd said about the job on a private Facebook page for my 15 other workmates, the manager included. I'd been there a week. Now, I'm a deadpan sarcastic bastard at the best of times, and it doesn't always translate well in print, especially to people who don't know me. But I felt infidel more than He-Man and the Masters of the Universe gave better insight into my playful character. Bear with me here, I can't state my main complaint, as to do so would pretty much identify the place, and talking shit about ex-employers doesn't exactly enamor you to prospective ones. Understand that it's industry specific, but in a nutshell, I propose that a company shouldn't take money off of its staff in addition to time it already has. You can't work tirelessly if you're tired. Financial remuneration isn't enough to foster loyalty. Grease the wheels, baby, comrade. After saying that, I try to be funny. Big mistake. I mean, if I said to you, we make cheese, no one would notice if we ate some, and even if they did, we can just blame those mice from the other nest. Only for you to state that, in fact, you actually like the mice from the other nest, then I could probably deduce that you had taken me seriously, perhaps even deflecting your own bias against mice from other nests by virtue signalling offence on their behalf. Now, does that mean I shouldn't joke, or do I have to write lol winking emoji after every offhand fucking attempt at humour? What if I'd written, the other mice steal more cheese, it's in their nature, lol winking emoji? My point isn't that the mice were stealing cheese here, nor even that they should. As I found myself explaining, I prefer mice to cats. No, this fable has gone completely to shit. Forget the fucking mice. What did I learn? Gripes go up, not down. Stop trying so hard to be liked and don't attempt a coup, not even in jest. All that is largely irrelevant, though. I mean, I could have said I found the manager's girlfriend to be both impolite and slow on her feet, suggesting nepotism, and still my main point would stand. My point, after all this waffle, isn't that despite my work being complimented, I was fired for being a cheeky, opinionated prick. They're running a business, not a think tank after all, and had every right to get shot at me. It's that the manager didn't only bring up the comments I'd made on the private page, but mentioned how, since we had a mutual Facebook friend, he was able to view my timeline. I believe he shook his head. He may have even sighed. Later that day, I checked out my wall to see what I'd been saying. The first one after my interview. Potential employer said, "We're like a family here," and I wish I'd said, "Sexual abuse, alcoholism, and violent personality disorders, eh?" Using a winking emoji in case people thought I was referring to my own family, of course. A few days ago, I was reading a pamphlet about bowel cancer in the doctor's waiting room and getting quite scared. Now I'm back to work, I realise that I'm actually ready to die. Every day is just another shift where I forgot to kill myself. #keep busy. Minimum wage, 12-hour dog bone kitchen shifts, no staff meals or post-work pint, in a hometown you hate? Yeah, I'm working on a novel. Now, who doesn't love a bit of hyperbole, right? Wrong. I should pay more attention to the things I sign. The company reserves the right to monitor email, social networking, telephone and internet activity of its employees. Use of email, text message and social media to send or forward messages that are defamatory, obscene, whether unwittingly or otherwise, will be treated as misconduct. So I don't especially agree with it, but I can understand why tongue-in-cheek critique of company policy, even when between colleagues in a private forum, would get me fired. However, the fact the manager brought up my Facebook posts which are not public and mention neither my place of work nor anything that, in any sane world at least, would bring the company into disrepute, makes me wonder if I'd have been fired even if I'd never made the comments about fucking staff meals. I mean, who defines what is defamatory? The manager himself? Pure subjectivity. Or would it be this employee handbook? I don't know which concerns me more. So just like with that fucking t-shirt, I became paranoid. More paranoid. How far back had he gone on my timeline? He wouldn't have had to look far. I've been self-employed for a few years. What's it okay to say in order to hold down a job these days? If I can't say, the Queen of England won't die, she will just shed her skin and slither into the body of a fresh host, without fear of reprisal, then I don't want to live on this shitty goddamn planet anymore. Sure, I'm a ridiculous fucking buffoon, but even a stopped clock, yada yada yada. To look at the broader picture, only a fool would fail to see how freedom of expression is being eroded away by authoritarian regressives in the name of political correctness. We've all heard about people being banned on social media, even the police and courts getting involved for shit posted online. Sometimes that's unwarranted, other times not. The trouble is, anything can be taken out of context these days and everyone could be offended. We can still speak our minds to a point for now, but free speech is circling the fucking drain of the free world. When you could be shut down simply for stating an opinion or sharing a statistic. Well, here's an example. I was speaking online with my Canadian ex-girlfriend's mother, long story, and the subject had gone from terrorism to rape culture. Don't ask me how. All I did was mention that more men are raped in US prisons than total women in the US. I'm paraphrasing here, but she told me that because all men are rapists, even the ones in prison for crimes other than rape, even those wrongfully convicted, even those that have never forced themselves on a woman or a man, they deserve to be raped. Now that's not a very nice thing to say, is it? Thing is though, people should be allowed to say whatever the hell they want. I remember seeing a guy on the street in Edinburgh quoting Christian scripture and damning gays to hell. I don't believe he should be silenced. People looked at him, some ignored him, some gaped, laughed, but no one joined him. I certainly doubt he gets invited to many parties. Can't we just judge each other by the soundness of our ideas and not dismiss out of hand every dissenting opinion? Progress comes from open discourse, from when we entertain dangerous ideas and accept facts. facts, even when the truth doesn't suit our narrative. Where does not being a cunt end and self-censorship begin? Proportional response. You call me a fat drunk, I call you an ugly moron. But ad hominem attacks are the death of rational discourse. Can I criticize your ideas? Hold you to account for your actions? And vice versa. Isn't that how a decent society should work? I don't know though. Remember when 51.9% of those who voted in the recent EU referendum did so in favour of Brexit? The next day, those 17.5 million people were labelled bigots by the other half. Bigots who don't deserve democracy. But that's a whole other story. I mean, sure, language is fluid, but the meanings of words shouldn't be so broadly redefined as to lose their definitions entirely. Calling it racism only when white people do it is frankly racist against, you guessed it, white people. Calling it rape when a woman regrets a consensual hookup after the booze wears off is a slap on the face to victims of actual sexual assault. Calling it phobic to criticize a religion for the violent acts some, #not all, of its followers carry out in its name makes it all but immune to criticism. A house divided against itself cannot stand, which is why my manager crushed dissent in the lower ranks. But as a deeper metaphor, the more we jostle to be the most offended, the loudest victim running to safe spaces when our echo chambers are infected by reason, the more we define ourselves by our so-called oppressor and so come to depend on them, do we not then become hammers, where every problem ends up looking like a motherfucking nail? We're censoring ourselves and saving the state the trouble. Like pigs happily slicing ourselves into rashers, we're dividing and conquering ourselves. You don't need the Stasi when you've got the thought police. So I'm sorry to the Muslim family in the museum for what could be perceived as a fuck you to their sincerely held beliefs, and sorry to the non-speakers who may have thought it wasn't a beer gut beneath my worn Arabic. And while we're on the subject of t-shirts, I'm sorry too to the girl who recently gave my He-Man offering a weird look, perhaps as disgusted by my gut as I am by the unrealistic body standards set by the hero of Eternia, or perhaps triggered because she remembered She-Ra had a winged unicorn and Daddy only ever got her a pony. Fucking patriarchy. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening. It went on a wee bit longer than I'd expected, and sorry if it got too preachy toward the end. Am I wrong? Am I right? You tell me. I don't care. Fuck you. All I know for sure is I'm even more unemployable now, so please, pretty please, buy my fucking books.